So let's get started, and then my team is working together. Welcome, men that support women. We're very proud of
well
you.
Done.
Thank
now
you
I'm
for
help
joining
Chile.
us.
Go Argentina.
All right. So this panel is very close to my heart. When I joined CrossTech about 2 years ago, I engaged and challenged Hugo, and I said, we have a lot of male panelists, and we don't have a panel to celebrate women. And he said, well, we're in an industry of 95% male. How do we gather women to be part of this initiative? He's been trying to do this work for the last 15 years of bringing and coaching speakers that are women so they can be part of this session. So I said, well, I love that, but I want to change that. So now, since 2021, all of our conference, we have a Women in Payments panel where we celebrate women, we celebrate and empower other women to continue to feel confident to be part of this talks. And I think today it was hard, but also very easy to find inspiring women in payments. I know each one of you that are here very unique. With different backgrounds. I'm going to introduce myself for the ones who don't know me, and then I'm going to have each of you introduce yourself a little bit so we can have the cross-border payment community get to know you. So I've been talking a lot today, so most of you probably already know me, but for the ones who have just joined now, my name is Priscilla Friedman. I'm the CEO of CrossTech. My background, I come from American Express. I was managing card issuing, prepaid cards many years ago. I started in the US and Canada, then I moved to LATAM. From there, I started creating digital products for a network of universities, always dealing with clients in mostly LATAM, US, and then expanded to Europe. And then I started consulting and met Hugo. He knows everybody, not only cross-border payments, but he actually knew my old CEO when I used to work in Laureate. So it was really nice to be able to do this transition. It's my first time managing a mid-sized company. So a lot of us in the cross-border payment are in the same idea, right? Startups to mid-size and then to become big. So it's been a really amazing experience to be able to bring my corporate structure background to semi-startup, because I think when we transformed IMTC to become CrossTech, it's a new beginning. So it's kind of like we started a new startup company. And now I'll introduce Christina. I would love you to talk a little bit about you. And I'm also very proud that NIUM is here as a sponsor, as a transformational company that is part of B2B payments. So I'm honored that you're here. Please tell our guests a little bit about you and a little bit about why you're here.
So yes, why am I here? I think it's very important for us. So I'm Christina Hutchinson. I'm working at NIUM, as you just mentioned. Why NIUM is here is to keep us working together as a community. We do global payments and around the world, so it's important for us to be here. We just launched Latin America as a region in terms of opening to different entities in different countries and really building a team that's going to be that global approach that gives you that localized presence, right? There's that global, local approach. I'm very keen in building businesses but they do have some kind of foundation, so let's put that one day they start as startups and then they reach a bigger size. NIUM has already 11 offices, around 1,000 employees. So that's the reason I'm here from a professional perspective. Let's build the community together. Let's see what we can do together. Let's foster Latin America, right? So I have two passions in my life. One of them is LATAM. I have many passions in my life, but one of them, LATAM. The second one was, as I was hearing in the morning, around payments doesn't come to you. Suddenly when you see you work in the payments industry and then you never leave, right? And I realized, and I'm going to speak a little bit from a personal perspective, is that I always been curious and I always been interested in understanding what's going on around us and the business, and always asking people, why you do like this, why you do like that. My mom used to say it was a nightmare, but I realized she was trying to say I was entrepreneur and I had a business mind, right? Trying to understand what's going on around us. So I think that I brought that to my personal life. Although I have a name that's Christina Hutchinson, people don't realize I'm from Brazil. And then only when I start speaking, then they don't realize I come from Rio de Janeiro. So they say, but what's going on? Why do you have that name and why you don't have the suntan from Rio? I said, that's my parents' fault, that they come from Europe and they fell in love in Brazil. So their fault, not mine. But people usually think that we haven't placed you as a Latina, and especially not someone from Rio de Janeiro, right? But that's a little bit of me, about myself.
And I wanted to also make a comment. When I was building this panel with Anna from my team, I said I want different regions because we get different perspectives. So Christina is coming, she's global, but I think she represents Brazil today and right now at this panel. And I also want to introduce you to Marcela Gonzalez. You can talk a little bit about yourself, but Marcela has a background that it's very important because it covers Europe, Asia, and Africa. And you know, for cross-border payments, a lot of our clients are opening that corridor and have seen a lot of opportunity to be working in the area. So I will thank you for bringing your Europe, Asia, and Africa perspective. And I would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience today.
Thank you, Priscilla. So Marcela Gonzalez, nothing about African or British. Well, I'm British now, but I'm Colombian. I'm pure Colombian woman that one day had an opportunity to travel into Europe for work. And then since 20 years, I have been working in that environment of the cross-border payments, not only in Europe, but Middle East, Africa, and East Europe. Before that, I was also working in the money transfer industry that was with in Colombia, in Titan. So that's my background. My humble background is, ask me, and I will tell you. Thanks. I will tell you about the industry. I will tell you about the corridors. I will tell you about how to initiate and how to expand and how to scale a business. But this is basically what I am doing. So my last post that lasted 20 years was RIA. So I'm just living, the oven. So now my title is I am a woman expert in the cross-border payment. So very open to tell you not all the real secrets, but to tell you and to talk about what is happening in the cross-border payments industry.
Thank you, Marcela. And I've been trying to get Marcela to be part of these panels for about 7 months. So today, please, this is an honor to have you here with us sharing your perspective.
Thank you. And sorry, just one last thing that I need to add. I'm now a member of the board for CrossTech.
Thank you. So I got her as a panelist and as a board member. So thank you, Marcela, for being here. Now I want to introduce you guys to Allison. I think we met in a similar context, and here I was following some of your work in the Women Network payments, and she has done such a great job getting women together as part of my mission as well. So I think that's a value that we have in common. And you're also an ex-banker, which when I saw your profile, I said, Anna, I need to have this person in our panel, because I have to say the banking track is another track that I've been trying to build, and it's really hard to get bankers to be on stage to discussing how to open bank accounts for cross-border payment companies. So you have a profile that is very inspiring. Please, let's tell the audience a little bit about who you are.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here. And as Priscilla said, I'm Allison Barbosa. I'm at RTGS.global now, which is a UK-based Fintech, actually a startup that we've been looking at PVP, so payment versus payment settlement risk. And it's very different to your point of what I've been doing. I am an ex-banker, so I've been in banking for 20 plus years, always as treasury services side, so I looked after cash, trade, finance, liquidity management, and of course payments has become a big piece of what we were looking at. I worked in a few different large multinational banks, Citibank, I was most recently at JP Morgan. I worked at Standard Chartered. So I've worked across the board in all different regions in US, Latin America. I started my career in Latin America actually here in Miami at Citibank, right next door. So it's very strange to be back here, right next to my office where I used to go every day. And then I looked after Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. So I've been able to see all of the different all of the different ways that, when we talk about earlier, we were talking a little bit on the panel about how different Africa is. And when you look at it, it's so many countries with so many different regulations and different profiles. It's the same. Latin America is the same. We were talking earlier about that. So it's been great to be able to kind of connect all the dots together, particularly when you're talking about cross-border payments. So I'm delighted to be here. Women in Payments is definitely near and dear to my heart. I was very active in the Women in Payments Organization, which is a global organization that's across all different regions. But I really think that we need to focus on Latin America, and I'm excited to really see how we can start focusing with CrossTech on building out the profile for women in Latin America. So thank you all.
So this is just the beginning. So I wanted to get into the questions, and sorry for the male, but some of the questions are going to be very woman focused. So, but we need the men to support all of us. So the first question is, we wanted to talk about what are the biggest challenges you have faced as a woman in the payment and fintech industry, and how you overcome them. Christina, do you want to share a little bit about your perspective?
Challenges, I think that speaking personally in my own career, I'm also an ex-banker, so I think that I think all industries can be kind of sexist, especially if you speak about 20 years ago, right? I should say just 5, but let's be honest, it's been 20-ish. And so I think it was all about having equal opportunities and not having to prove yourself twice, right? So almost like you, in the beginning of career, and don't take me wrong, I see a big change. It was all around, you always have to prove yourself or apologize or kind of justify why you're just someone talented who's doing a good job and is accomplishing good results. It's almost like it came with a sense of guilt. So I'm giving a personal perspective about, you were a very good student, you kind of have to justify you being a female in a group of males that's a good student. When you look at university-wise, most of them are males, and you're kind of right. So it was always a sense of, am I doing something wrong? Let me just apologize for just doing a good job, right? So that's something I think have changed a lot, and that would be my first recommendation, that don't do that. That there's a book called Don't Apologize. I think it comes with that purpose of, we don't have to look at it from a different perspective, right? It should be equal. If we look from challenges as Latin America, I don't know if you're also interested in looking for that perspective, I see that specifically as LATAM, that's so, the equal opportunities, they don't come, you don't have the foundation to have access to equal opportunities. So I'm thinking of coming from a privileged side, that I had all the opportunities I needed from education, from what I wanted to study, what I wanted to do, but that's not the reality you see in Latin America. Like, you don't promote women in doing technology. You don't give free courses and capabilities for those who want to explore different skill sets. We're speaking about now a very digitalized region, right? And many don't having the opportunities to kind of place themselves as someone who's going to work on that career. So you try to get senior positions in the future, but the foundation is not there. People are not investing in all types of skill sets that you could be doing that are going to be the work of the future, right? So I still feel that's still not there. And secondly, a little bit of mindset. It was very interesting for me to have a conversation with an Indian colleague who said, look, I apply for jobs that I have half the skills that my wife has, and she doesn't accept applying to them if she doesn't feel she has all the skill sets. And he said, but why are we having this conversation? Let the employer decide if you have the skill sets or not. It's his job, not mine. So I said, you know what, we are much more conscious around how much we try to accomplish from the beginning than men. Men are naturally more bold, right? So I said, that's also something we have to keep changing as a mindset, because that's also starting from the foundation that you're not investing on things you could, you're not promoting yourself, you're not taking risks or things, you're kind of also, again, building barriers that don't need to be there, right?
And I think one thing that I want to add to that, at least in my personal experience, is that sometimes the opportunities are not there, and how do you create it? So I just did a talk with another woman at work a few months ago. It's called Tribe. It's in the UK for anyone who is here in the Europe side. And I was talking about how do you turn opportunities into conversions of customer relationships, right? And for example, in a conference, you come here, you probably, each one of you get at least 15 business cards. That's low number, but just to say the beginners. And then what do you do with them? Out of those 15 business cards, did you build a connection? Were you able to sign a contract? Were you able to convert that contract into revenue dollars who's gonna hit your P&L, right? And if you're not asking those questions when you go to conferences, and you're not asking those questions when you are in those situations when you're applying for a job, it means that you need to start reevaluating how are you attacking the opportunities. And I think for women, sometimes it's a little bit, I don't say it's harder, is that sometimes we don't know how to position ourselves. And that's why we're doing this. Because the idea for this is to empower each woman here in the room, and also to empower the men to guide women. Since you guys are more bold and you guys take more chances, is how do we partner so we continue building these relationships and creating the opportunities if they're not there. Marcela, do you want to share some of your challenges and how you overcame them?
Absolutely. And this is totally different start that I had before I traveled to Europe and to London. So I was born in a male-dominated family, so only woman among 6 brothers. I was working for a company in Colombia, Titan, that was, I had that privilege, that was encouraging the female progress. So basically, among 8 executives, 6 were women. So I was growing in my professional career into that environment, and I thought that that was life, and that was part of me. Like, okay, this is how you open your journey, your professional career. When I moved into the UK, things were totally different. Things were 100%, 180%. What is happening is that I found that I had to start a project called RIA, and I had to start dealing with the shop owners, and shop owners are originally from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and that was the first shock that I had, because they didn't want to speak to a woman. And then how you create the opportunities, definitely, this is very important, and how you need to embrace the new culture where we are, and how you keep yourself with that strength, with that conviction, and with being secure of your knowledge, of your experience, to go and combat, let's say, this tough environment. It was tough, but it was not impossible. So at RIA, my last post, I was the VP of Strategic Partnerships globally. It was a long journey, and yes, in the payment services industry, it is tough. But we also, as a women, we need to coach each other, we need to support each other, and we need to let others understand that we don't need to tick all the boxes, because nobody is perfect here, but we have the knowledge and the courage to keep progressing in a company, to open a new enterprise. And another thing is that we need to change that paradigm that women are only for compliance or for HR. We need to demonstrate that women also are capable of being CEOs, that women are also capable of being part of the board. I was part of the board of 10 companies at Euronet, and you can demonstrate and you can participate with all the knowledge, but we need to support each other, and we need to share that example to our female peers and colleagues, that don't be shy. Don't be shy, because we are in the same scenario, and maybe the one good thing that men have is that they know very well how to hide the nervousness, how to hide the being shy. So they are expert at that, and we need to learn that. We need to learn. They are also nervous when they are coming here to speak loudly or to speak to a public. I believe everyone has, because we are humans, and And then we need to understand that, yes, we have the same opportunities, and we need this to encourage that in our team.
Thank you, Marcela. I feel very inspired now. And then I had to do a tough one today. When the video wasn't working, I really had to stood up and try to catch everybody's attention to make sure that we're all understanding why we're here and how can we turn things around. So sometimes it's making bold moves like that you have to just go for and not think about the consequences. So Allison, talk a little bit about you. Women leadership now moving from banking into cross-border industry. Tell us a little bit about some of the challenges you face and how you overcome them so we can support and inspire other women.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Christina had mentioned it a little bit earlier, especially, being in banking for a long time. You start out in a very male-dominated organization where you are one of the few women in the room. And if there are women in the room, they're generally in a more support functions, or they're in just the more lower or more junior levels of the organization. And what we need to do is really bring that up. And then part of it is helping women to get more training, to give them more confidence, because it's just not what we've been used to in the past. And it's really retraining people's minds. But I think part of it too is, I've struggled with that too. You go into a room and you think, I'm one of the few women here, and your voice, my voice anyway, tends to be lower than most of the males. So I always feel like nobody's listening to me, and you think you're on mute, and you're not. You're not really on mute. They just don't hear you. So sometimes it is about having those other people in the room, having the advocates that are also helping to get the female voice more noticed, right? And we talk about that, and you've talked a little bit about it too, as the mentors, and having male allyship, having mentors. It's all about bringing in other people too. As women, we're never gonna get there alone. We really need the allies too. So it's important for us to talk to our peers, to get support from them, to bounce ideas off them, but also for them to help and to support us to do better, because we're all in this together, right? And we know when we look at diversity, it helps to create a better work environment. It helps to create better results. There have been a lot of studies on it, and it's not just diversity of women; it's diversity across the board too, right? And it's important to get all the voices out there, and we all need to be supporting each other. But equally, as women, we tend to feel the same things that we can then help other women to lift them up and to get them to apply for those jobs that maybe they only have 60% of the skills, but you know what? Most of the males are saying, yeah, I can do this. They look at it and they say, I can do 100% of this. A woman's looking at the same thing with the same background saying, I think I have 60% of these skills, but they don't apply. But apply anyway, because you know what? It's all about changing the narrative of what you have to offer, and it's not 100% of what's on the piece of paper. So.
And now I'm gonna touch a topic. I love challenging questions or taboos. So there is a term called women empowering women, right? That we always like to use, and we all like to say, yes, that's what I do every day. But then when you look in the mirror and you look at your surrounding, is that really true? So my question now for you guys is gonna be women unempowering women. So that's something that we also see every day, right? Sometimes when we are in a table and there is a lot of women, instead of lifting each other up, that's not what we do. So can we talk a little bit about that and how can we solve that? I have to say that personally, I've been into many situations where, sometimes I'm trusting that the business ally or that friend, and then you think that friend is going for the same goal that you are, and then you find out later that you are empowering, but maybe the other party was not empowering, or you had a bad intention and you weren't empowering yourself. So I love to touch that, because I think I tell my team that all the time. One of the things that I live by is you give out your best and then you expect it back. And then you can't control what other people are doing. You can only control your actions. So that's what I do on a daily basis. And then my team says, but sometimes you gotta go. But look what they're doing. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to give the best. I'm going to surround myself with a support system that follows that value. And then if things turns around against me, I'll just deal with it then. But let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's a taboo I hear in all the talks. And I've practiced this because I think we're going to be the first panel talking about women and empowering women. So how do you handle that? And what is the advice for other women that are in that situation to ensure that you keep fighting for your values or for doing what's right, even though you have sometimes your peer women trying to create obstacles for you? Do you want to take that?
Sure, yeah, thanks. I'll start with that little bomb that you threw out. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, I mean, I think it's a very valid point, and one of the things that we're trying to do, and it's interesting because we were talking earlier about some of the different organizations for women, and some of them are not non-for-profit. They're actually for-profit, and you see the women are trying to really just lift up themselves, or they're, a lot of it is really just about the bottom line. But we need to be helping each other, and part of that starts with realizing that you don't need to bring somebody else down to lift somebody, to lift yourself up. Like, you're lifting yourself up. It's just the way you build a team, right? When you're building a team, you're looking for the best people, and you're not going to say, oh, this person's going to outshine me. I want somebody better than me sitting at that table because they're going to help me get to where I need to go too. So, karma can be a bad thing. So, you know what? I mean, I think ultimately you do the right thing. And like you said, you can't control what other people do. You can only control how you react to that. So you need to give your best. You want to make sure that or try to surround yourself with people that are also looking out for everybody's best interests. And it is up to us as women. We need to stop. We need to stop that. And it starts with every person just doing something nice for somebody else, knowing that, I know that I've been very lucky to have some really great women and men lift me up in my career and have helped me along the way. And so I love doing that for other people because selfishly, I get something out of it too. It makes me feel good to know that I've done something good for somebody else. But it's also, we all need to start changing that behavior. And little by little, if we look at, even starting organizations that are really more about nonprofit and really about women that want to help other women, it can start there. But yeah, I agree. You can't control other people.
Thank you, Allison. Marcela, do you want to share a little bit about your experience on women and empowering women and how we can solve it?
Yes. What I think is that the panel is called Women in Leadership, and this is about a question for every one of us into how are we making effective our leadership among women. Expectations as well is another topic that please don't expect that every woman will help you out. Don't expect that because you don't know their mindset. And I have had both male and female bosses and different experiences. So set up your expectations because you never know what is the mindset of that manager that you have. And I have found that male bosses have been really encouraging in my case to progress and to go ahead into my scale of professional leader. But I will say that it is difficult. However, if we are in the leadership, we need to have that commitment to make inclusive for women. In my case, for example, in the UK, starting this project of RIA and making RIA the second largest company in the UK, I personally had that commitment that in sales, I wanted to have participation of women. So every time that it was the recruiting, the selection process, I was asking not to have only men from, again, the nationalities, yeah, because you only have, you think that for sales or for business development or for finance or for this type of careers, of roles, you only can have men. No, you need to make that commitment yourself to bring opportunities for your peers, and that is how you will be playing a very balanced way of acting as a proper woman in leadership. So create those scenarios, and then you will support the fact that you will give the opportunity to your peers. Not everyone is in the same mindset, unfortunately, but that's life. And our job, I will say, our commitment, we need to create that commitment in every one of us to keep bringing our peers into more opportunities.
And Marcela, just a side comment, is the first board member as a woman for CrossTech. So I've been on this for about 12 months trying to get a woman in my board.
And it's not the first time that I always the first woman for something.
Thank you so much. So Christina, tell us a little bit about your experience with women and empowering women, and what do you think about that?
I did have that experience. Again, speaking about going back 20 years, the first time I managed the team, they said, it's only women. That's going to be a nightmare. And I said, okay, what a scary first comment from the big boss. But actually it was a little bit more challenging, right? And I like having diverse teams. It's different personalities, different genders, different backgrounds, right? But it came a little bit from this fact that women also feel more, they had less of that, going back to the foundation, that you thought that men were always going to be united, the opportunities were there, they don't have to justify themselves. So that builds an environment where women always had to kind of prove themselves, and I don't want to use the wrong word, but it gave a more sense of insecurity where, you kind of have to prove yourself twice. So let me make sure I can diminish someone that's could be my competition in this female world, rather than men who have everything for granted. So that environment, I think that was one of the foundations. Again, it goes back to the level of opportunity, how conscious you are that you're as capable as others are. How do you feel when you're the only one in meetings? And I've been to events, global events, discussing these topics around women in the financial market, and it's always the same feedback. I've been in meetings where I was the only woman. I've been in meetings that I was the only one doing this and that. So that's quite common, and I was really in the discussions that you're speaking around the globe of people from different companies related to financial industry, but from different verticals, right? So I think that built that sense that you have to kind of diminish like it's a competition. It's only going to have room for one, right? Only one female will survive. So, but looking at the bright side, and for those who know me, I'm always on the half glass full. And I think that's why I disrupted a lot during my career, because everyone, when somebody brought a challenge, I would use my sense of humor saying, I had meetings where people said, but are we waiting for someone? No, that's what you have. I am the chief of this department, and this conversation will be women. It is what it is. That's what we have for today, and people feel like embarrassed. It is what it is, right? I'm not going to justify myself for being someone who's running a region, and I came to have a professional discussion. We're not sitting in the bar to discuss about life, right? So I never really allowed that to be part of my discussion, but it does pop up, right? Who hasn't had an experience? Look, that someone kind of looks you a little bit different, like you're in the wrong box, right? So usually in my case, I always use my English sense of humor to say, it is what it is, right? But looking on the bright side is things are changing, because the more we build the identity, you were saying about opportunities, equal opportunities, the more you don't allow that to be a kind of a best practice, you start to change the game. So when you have someone trying to do that, and you don't make that part of the identity of that environment, and you do that by building the community. Everywhere you have a community, there's a sense of best practice or culture that you kind of follow, right? Not only corporate being culture. Your house has a culture, your friends, they have type of behaviors. It's all about how you build that identity. If as a group you build identity where that should not be a topic, you're going to start diminishing that. And also you might be helping people, you mentioned coaching and mentoring, right? You might be helping people understand that should not be a topic. That's not part of the agenda, right? I'm waiting for the time that we're going to have these discussions because we are promoting more the debate, but not because we have to. It's just because it's so natural, it's just part of the agenda, right? That's the work in progress, right? That doesn't have to be. And we're speaking about today about gender and women and stuff, but that goes for any type of diversity. right? Why do we have to? It could be a cultural diversity. It could be a country diversity, right? Like region where you're born. It could be whatever which team, football team you support, whatever, right? We are different and we should be different, right? We should. And back to Allison's point, diversity brings revenue. We've seen women proving that, and not just more women in leadership roles. If you look at diverse teams, cross-functional teams, different expertise brings higher revenue. So it's not about, oh, we're just trying to be nice. But the corporate people, businessmen and businesswomen and executives are seeing that brings numbers, that brings revenue, right? It's being proven, right? So it's not like we're doing any favors, right? And we are the best.
Yeah, that happened actually to me. I wanted to share a personal experience. 2 days ago, I was in the middle of a big contract negotiation, and I invited my CFO to be with me. And he's a lot older than me. David, I love you. I'm not counting your age here, but he's a lot older than me. And he came to the table with me, and then he said, okay, so when is the CEO coming? And I said, no, I'm the one leading this negotiation. I brought my CEO because the decision that I make, he's going to have to run the numbers to make sure it runs through. And everybody looked at me, and they couldn't believe it. And it was another woman who asked me that question. So this is another example of how that comment, if I wasn't confident enough, it could throw me in my negotiation feeling good about myself,
and
right?
you can now use my sentence. It is what we have for today. It is what it is. That's what we have for today. It's me.
Yes.
Done. Let's move
So
the topic.
that was my
And
response.
You need to
and
keep practicing
Yes.
until you get your confidence.
So the next question I wanted to talk about some of the B2B companies that we have here today, and Allison, your company, RTGS.
Global.
I said it right. NIUM, and then of course you coming from RIA. And let's talk a little bit about some of the initiatives for women that some of the companies that you're working for are doing. And then I will close to some of the CrossTech initiatives that we're doing to support women. I think I would love to hear, Christina, from you, some of the blogs and the initiatives that NIUM is taking to support women.
Yeah, so one of the things I do, as we were speaking about not apologizing, and I'm not going to change the fact that I'm a smart woman, so I have no plans of changing that. So one of the things I do as I build my career path, I look for places that have a natural women representation, that just comes with the how you say in English, it comes with the territory, right? So NIUM, that was one of the things that pushed me to start building the region for Latin America and what we could foster, because there's a lot of women in leadership. More than 30% of the staff now in senior positions are women. So we're not speaking about staff, we're speaking about senior leadership positions. So I'm running Latin America for the sales and business development. We have people doing the same in Southeast Asia. We have another lady doing it in England. We have another lady doing it in Israel. Right, so that shows there's a lot, again, back to those numbers and things we spoke about, diversity brings revenue and all that stuff. So together we're doing as an institution, we're being very lucky to have the support of the company. And so these are the actions we're doing from a NIUM perspective, but we also do, like Allison was saying, other initiatives that we do in our personal time. One of them, we have the blog we just did, and who wants to receive them, I'm glad to share with you guys, blog Women in Fintech, around how we are driving and leading by example and what we're doing to make the change, right? Because I think we didn't mention that before, but leading by example also encourages people to see there's a consistency of what you're doing, right? So I'm a strong believer of building consistency and leading by example and helping us as a community. So we're doing that with blogs, and each region is also organizing like mentoring for women or mentoring for women that want to understand how they place themselves in the corporate world. Women who want to learn more about skill sets they should have in fields they think they're still not open to explore, right? It could be different topics that allow them to grow and encourage them to build their career. We're also organizing, with the support of NIUM, like meetups within each region, because I think from a regional perspective, you do have different challenges. We're going to see that 90% are going to be the same, but then you're going to have those nuances coming from US. It's different than Brazil. It's going to be different than London, as you were saying. Like in India, of course, even more complicated. We also bring in those type of initiatives. I think less is more, right? You can do small steps. You can bring the community together, build the identity, share the voice. It's all about having the voice, like make it vocal. If you see something that's not done correctly, just make it part of dialogue. Be a driver of dialogue, and that's what we've been doing. And I think it has been working. I know there's other initiatives around. Like I promote also people who are less fortunate in terms of education, how they can kind of have the same equal opportunities. And sometimes, if in the same situation they're less fortunate. For women, it's sometimes more difficult because they have to overcome the barriers of having been raised of, we should not be doing that, or we're conscious of that, oh, this opportunity will never come to me. So even working on that type of mentoring as well, that you kind of build the trust from the foundation, and it makes a big difference because it all starts from the beginning of the journey as well, right? You're not 20 years in your career and then you learn that, oh, now I'm gonna, it starts from the foundation, how we're helping each other grow, right? And one last thing, and I'm seeing such young faces here, and that inspires me to say that the younger generation, not that we're not the young generation, let's say I'm millennium senior, but I think it also came with a different mindset. I see by my niece and friends and things, there is a different mindset about how we handle these, right? So I think there has been a huge improvement about how women tolerate, despite what you mentioned around that should not be how we communicate as a generation-wise, right?
Marcela, do you want to share some activities or networks that you've been part of as a woman that has helped you grow your career, so that way we can continue inspiring the younger generations and our current generation?
Yes, absolutely. One of those forums that I attend, so I'm part of the, I am a fellow member of Windsor Castle, that's St. George College, and that is we are like about 280 people globally, and 70% of the fellow members are women. So that's great, and this is in a very senior position, and we create those environments and conversations and events to encourage and to share our best practices into how we can keep promoting the fact that women needs to get more confident into their own careers and into their own professions. But one thing that I believe nowadays companies needs to have is not just the say or the commitment or just to put a slogan, we are inclusive, or yes, we welcome women in our leadership team. No, I think it needs to go beyond that, because when you double click, that is not happening. You need to, I don't know, create a policy and make it as a culture of your own organization to embrace that inclusion of female workforce into your company. And again, as you said, it's not only into junior levels, but give the opportunity to women to get into the executive levels, because it is proven we have all the skills and the capabilities to run a business and run a business in a very efficient and effective way. So
there is a saying, they say walk the talk, right? So don't only post that you're women inclusive and then you do a senior level dinner and everybody that shows up is men. Actually, last year on CrossTech World, we hit 486 attendees in November, and we hosted a CEO dinner. And when I went through my registration list, Fernanda, you couldn't come, but you are one of my women CEOs, but I could barely find any. So I had a CEO dinner with not even one woman. And the women that were there, they couldn't even attend because they had another commitment because there was a nod request. So just to give you guys perspective that this is a everyday fight, and we encourage you here that are representing other companies to have those hard conversations on our behalf. I would love to hear from you, Allison. I met you through admiring some of your work in the women community. Share with us what has been the things that have worked and that continue to inspire you so you can inspire others.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think one of the things, just picking up on the point that you were making, is a lot of companies are now putting KPIs in, and as terrible as that sounds, because you want it to be natural, it's not natural, it's changing behavior, and you need to do something that actually shows results, right? So putting in KPIs where you're having people at certain levels that you need to hit certain goals, I think it helps to, hopefully one day we won't need to have those, and we won't need to put those in people's goals, but at least it will help to create and facilitate something that becomes more natural along the way, right? And that's not even just about women. Again, it's talking about diversity across the globe, because I think we have a problem in most companies. And I will say, I'm actually right now, so I've moved to a small fintech company that's based out of the UK, and there are very few women in it, and and it's a very new organization, so we haven't really focused on, getting more involved in women and lifting women up. And I know that's one thing that we've talked about. But for me, I've been involved in different organizations. In some of the banks, there are our own women in, women on the move, or different types of movements that help to create mentorship programs and training programs and do different types of events to bring women together to do more networking. And what I've tried to do is really take on people, just even in a more just natural type of way as mentors, and really just trying to help women that are either more junior than me, or even my colleagues, or different peers that need to be, that we need to help each other. And I wanted to make one other point, because we talk a lot about mentorship, but it's also sponsorship is so important.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and it's very different than being a mentor, because you need someone to sponsor you. You need somebody to be the voice of you when you're not in that room, and you want them to be the ones that are help lifting you up, because that's also another way for us to get there. And I think the more sponsors that you can look to have it's key, and that's what's gonna help women get ahead as well. So for me, it's really about just bringing other women together, a lot of networking, a lot of sharing of best practices.
So thank you, RTGS Global, for letting you be here. So this is the beginning of the initiatives for pushing for women within your company. So I'm very thankful.
Thank you,
for you to be here. And just to close, they're giving me the 1 minute. CrossTech, like I mentioned earlier, since 2021, we started this women initiative. One panel in each conference is for women. We also have one edition of the magazine that it covers women in payment. Anna is here. She's leading that initiative as well. And we are also looking into build an online community focused on women. So stay tuned for that in 2024. And we're very thankful for all the men who are here. If you're here, it's because you care and you support other women. So I want to give a round of applause for that.